Welcome everyone to another edition of Play It Through, and on this edition it's Splatterhouse Wanpaku Graffiti for the Famicom, also known as the Nintendo Entertainment System. Splatterhouse Wanpaku Graffiti, roughly translated as Naughty Graffiti, was actually the first Splatterhouse game released on a home console. This game predates the Turbografx port of Splatterhouse 1, as well as the sequels of Splatterhouse 2 and 3 for the Sega Genesis or Mega Drive. The storyline for Wanpaku Graffiti is actually a prequel to the other three Splatterhouse games. It takes place in a graveyard at first, where Rick is already dead somehow and Jennifer mourning over the grave of Rick. Rick gets hit by a strike of lightning, comes back to life, and before a happy reunion can happen, the evil Pumpkin King shows up and takes Jennifer away. The first stage of Wanpaku Graffiti takes place in the graveyard, and you can see right away the game actually looks graphically pretty good. The gore is still in place, while not of course as serious as some of the other Splatterhouse games, it's still very effective. The backgrounds are very nice, and the scrolling is something that we didn't see too much in NES titles. In Wanpaku Graffiti, our main weapon isn't our fist for the first time in the Splatterhouse series, it's actually a weapon that we keep on us, the axe. One other unique thing about this Splatterhouse title is that you actually level up. You can see I have a health bar on the left side of the screen currently with 4 pieces of health that I'll lose gradually every time I take a hit, but after you kill a certain enemies, as you just saw, it went up to 5. You can see the meter at the top. Every time you reach the next amount of enemies killed, you level up. Definitely one of my favorite moments right there as we see the evil guy come up and summon these zombies that then start to do a dance before then attacking us. Reminds me of Monster Party on the NES, where you walk into the room and the zombies must dance in order to get the item from them. Watch out for his projectiles coming from the background. As you can see, there are spread shots to stand in the middle gap of one of the spread shots and take out the zombies back and forth. After a certain amount have been defeated, you'll be able to continue in the level. As our enemy goes back underground, for now, we continue on through the graveyard, and you can see my health has greatly grown since I started the level. As we enter inside this house, the walking hands are pretty easy to take out with a single hit. Just be careful when making your jumps to avoid the spikes that are coming out of the floor. In the next room, watch out as the bookcase shakes in the background because you're about to be attacked by some possessed books. Watch out their pattern as they bounce along the walls, and just be sure to dodge them as best as possible and take them out. And after a little bit, we'll be able to move on and into our first boss battle of the game. Here's our first boss battle. As we see this girl sitting on a bed, some weird effects start to happen as her head then spins Exorcist style, breaks apart, and now we must fight it along with some of the other furniture in the room. Just focus all your attacks on her head, because even if you hit the furniture, they just break for a second and then respawn and continue fighting you. So focus all your damage on the head and do your best to avoid the chairs at all costs. It won't take too long to actually be able to take it out, but the furniture can definitely get in the way. Stage 2 begins, I guess, farther into the house we were actually in the end of stage number 1, and you can see by the preview that we're going to be going into some kind of sewer. One other thing about Splatterhouse Wanpaku Graffiti is that there actually is an alternate ending you can get to the game if you collect 2 special crystals. To get to these crystals, you actually have to enter 2 separate warps in the level in order to actually be able to go to 2 special stages in order to get the crystals. I, of course, will be doing so in this run of the game. This next battle is pretty hilarious, as we have to deal with a stove that pops out chickens that are headless, as well as knives that are flying around the room. After you hit the chickens a few times, they burst into flames, and so really that's our main focus is going to be the chickens, as you can knock the knives down, but then they're going to get up just like the chairs from the first boss battle, and start attacking you again. It may seem like there's not too much going on as the room shakes, but after a little bit the floor will open up and take us to the next part of the stage. Once you land at the bottom in this water here, walk over to the right and enter the door to go into the actual sewer area. Once in here, you're going to have to deal with some flying zombie shrimp, as well as some mice that are walking around. While in the water, it's not too bad in terms of navigating. You're obviously slowed down, and it's very similar to the water sewer area from the first Splatterhouse game. There is only one spike to really jump over that you have to. You can get over most of the other ones by getting to the other platforms. Just be careful of the spikes, the zombie shrimp, and the mice, and then we'll actually make it to the end for our next boss battle. When you make it to the end here, all of a sudden there's a lot of wind picking up. And then, all of a sudden, a giant green rat will land on the level and start launching little tiny mice at you. Start working your way forward, taking out the mice in your path, and get as close as you can to him in order to deliver one quick hit. He'll explode and burst into flames, turning into one last small rabbit, and then you'll be able to actually move on to the next level. Stage number 3 takes place in the happy neighborhood of Devil Town. As we start off in Devil Town, you have a bunch of these little mini pumpkins that are going to pop up around the ground and spit little tiny pumpkins at you. There's some bad cockroaches that are going to get in your way, and they're pretty much easily able to be taken out with a single swing of the axe. When you reach the end of the block, you can enter the house by pressing up into it, and then inside the house you'll have to deal with a whole bunch of random spiders. Make your way to the right and enter the door on the far right. In here we have some chainsaws to deal with, one that's grinding across the floor that you'll have to jump over in order to avoid, and then a bunch of them start flying around the room at you. Take out all the chainsaws like we have with some of the other parts of the game, taking out all the enemies before you'll be able to actually continue on the stage. Once the door starts moving in the background, you'll know it's time to actually continue on, and then you have a pretty cool scene right here. Instead of an alien popping out of her stomach, we have spiders attack us from this schoolgirl's stomach as she lays on the table. A whole lot of spiders, to be precise. Something must have laid some eggs in her stomach to cause this many spiders to show up. Once again, take them all out just like we did with the chainsaws earlier and the chickens from before, and you'll be able to move on in the stage. Interestingly enough, after all these spiders have been defeated, she gets up and walks away, like nothing has happened there. Once she walks off screen, you transport back outside into the neighborhood again, and we have some more of the pumpkins to deal with, and some more cockroaches as we make our way to the next part of the stage.